USS Wisconsin is an Iowa-class battleship, the second ship of the United States Navy to be named in honor of the U.S. state of Wisconsin. She was built at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and launched on 7 December 1943. Sponsored by the wife of Governor Walter Goodland of Wisconsin. During her career, Wisconsin served in the Pacific Theater of World War II, where she shelled Japanese fortifications and screened United States aircraft carriers as they conducted air raids against enemy positions. During the Korean War, Wisconsin shelled North Korean targets in support of United Nations and South Korean ground operations, after which she was decommissioned. She was reactivated on 1 August 1986. After a modernization program, she participated in Operation Desert Storm in January and February 1991. Wisconsin was last decommissioned in September 1991, having earned a total of 6 battle stars for service in World War II and Korea, as well as a Navy Unit Commendation for service during the January-February 1991 Gulf War. She currently functions as a museum ship operated by Nauticus, the National Maritime Center in Norfolk, Virginia. Wisconsin was struck from the Naval Vessel Register 17 March 2006, and as of 14 December 2009, has been donated for permanent use as a museum ship. On 15 April 2010, the city of Norfolk officially took over ownership of the ship. Construction. Wisconsin was one of the fast battleship designs planned in 1938 by the Preliminary Design Branch at the Bureau of Construction and Repair. She was the third of 4 completed ships of the Iowa class of battleships. Her keel was laid down on 25 January 1941 at the Philadelphia Navy Yard. She was launched on 7 December 1943, sponsored by Mrs. Goodland, wife of Walter S. Goodland, the governor of Wisconsin, and commissioned on 16 April 1944, with Captain Early Stone in command. Wisconsin's main battery consisted of 9 16-in 50 cal Mark Chapter 7 guns, which could hurl 2,700 pounds armor-piercing shells some 20 miles. The secondary battery consisted of 25-in 38 cal guns in 10 twin turrets, which could fire at targets up to 10 miles away. With the advent of air power and the need to gain and maintain air superiority came a need to protect the growing fleet of Allied aircraft carriers. To this end, Wisconsin was fitted with an array of Lycon 20mm and Bofors 40mm anti-aircraft guns to defend Allied carriers from enemy airstrikes. When reactivated in 1986, Wisconsin had her 20mm and 40mm AA guns removed, and was outfitted with Phalanx CIWS mounts for protection against enemy missiles and aircraft, and armored box launchers and quad-cell launchers designed to fire Tomahawk missiles and Harpoon missiles, respectively. Wisconsin is numerically the highest-numbered U.S. battleship built. Although her keel was laid after the USS Missouri's, she was commissioned before the Missouri's commissioning date. Thus, Wisconsin's construction began after Missouri's, and finished earlier. Iowa and Wisconsin were finally stricken from the Naval Vessel Registry on 17 March 2006, making them the last battleships in commission in the World War II. Shakedown and service with 3rd Fleet Admiral Halsey. After the ship's trials and initial training in the Chesapeake Bay, Wisconsin departed Norfolk, Virginia on 7 July 1944, bound for the British West Indies. Following her shakedown cruise, she returned to the builder's yard for alterations and repairs. On 24 September 1944, Wisconsin sailed for the West Coast, transients the Panama Canal, and reporting for duty with the Pacific Fleet on 2 October. The battleship later moved to Hawaiian waters for training exercises and then headed for the Western Caroline Islands. Upon reaching the Caroline Islands, she joined Admiral William F. Halsey's Third Fleet on the 9th of December. Due to the length of time it took to build her, Wisconsin missed much of the initial thrust into Japanese-held territory, having arrived at a time when the reconquest of the Philippines was well underway. As a part of that movement, the planners had envisioned landings on the southwest coast of Mindoro, south of Luzon. For that point, American forces could threaten Japanese shipping lanes through the South China Sea. In preparation for the coming invasion of Mindoro, Wisconsin was assigned to protect the Third Fleet's fast carrier task force, as they conducted air raids at Manila to soften up Japanese positions. On the 18th of December, the ships of TF-38 unexpectedly found themselves in a fight for their lives when Typhoon Cobra overtook the Force 7 fleet and 6 light carriers, 8 battleships, 15 cruisers, and about 50 destroyers during their attempt to refuel at sea. At the time, the ships were operating about 300 miles east of Luzon in the Philippine Sea. The carriers had just completed 3 days of heavy raids against Japanese airfields, suppressing enemy aircraft during the American amphibious operations against Mindoro in the Philippines. The task force rendezvoused with Captain Jasper T. Acuff and his fueling group the 17th of December with the intention of refueling all ships in the task force and replacing lost aircraft. Although the sea had been growing rougher all day, the nearby cyclonic disturbance gave relatively little warning of its approach. On the 18th of December, the small but violent typhoon overtook the task force while many of the ships were attempting to refuel. Many of the ships were caught near the center of the storm and buffeted by extreme seas and hurricane-force winds. 3 destroyers, Hull, Monaghan, and Spence, capsized and sank with nearly all hands, while a cruiser, 5 aircraft carriers, and 3 destroyers suffered serious damage. Approximately 790 officers and men were lost or killed, with another 80 injured. Fires occurred in 3 carriers when planes broke loose in the hangars, and some 146 planes on various ships were lost or damaged beyond economical repair by fires, impact damage, or by being swept overboard. Wisconsin reported 2 injured sailors as a result of the typhoon, but otherwise proved her seaworthiness as she escaped the storm unscathed. Wisconsin's next operation was to assist with the occupation of Luzon. Bypassing the southern beaches, American amphibious forces went ashore at Lingayen Gulf, the scene of initial Japanese assaults to take Luzon nearly 3 years before. Wisconsin, armed with heavy anti-aircraft batteries, performed escort duty for TF-38's fast carriers during airstrikes against Formosa, Luzon, and the Nansei Shoto to neutralize Japanese forces there and to cover the unfolding Allied Lingayen Gulf operations. Those strikes, lasting from 3 to 22 January 1945, included a thrust into the South China Sea, in the hope that major units of the Imperial Japanese Navy could be drawn into battle. Wisconsin's carrier group launched airstrikes between Saigon and Cam Ranh Bay, French Indochina, on the 12th of January, resulting in severe losses for the enemy. TF-38's warplanes sank 41 ships and heavily damaged docks, storage areas, and aircraft facilities. Formosa, already struck on 3 to 4 January, was raided again on the 9th of January, the 15th of January, and the 21st of January. Throughout January, Wisconsin shielded the carriers as they conducted air raids at Hong Kong, Canton, Hainan Island, the Canton oil refineries, the Hong Kong Naval Station, and Okinawa. Service with 5th Fleet. Admiral Spruance, Wisconsin was assigned to the 5th Fleet when Admiral Raymond A. Spruance relieved Admiral Halsey as commander of the fleet. She moved northward with the redesignated TF-58 as the carriers headed for the Tokyo area. On the 16th of February, the task force approached the Japanese coast under cover of adverse weather conditions and achieved complete tactical surprise. As a result, Wisconsin and the other ships shot down 322 enemy planes and destroyed 177 more on the ground. Japanese shipping, both naval and merchant, also suffered drastically, as did hangars and aircraft installations. Wisconsin and the task force moved to Iwo Jima on the 17th of February to provide direct support for the landings slated to take place on the 19th of February. They revisited Tokyo on the 25th of February and hit the island of Hoshino off the coast of Honshu the next day, resulting in heavy damage to ground facilities. Additionally, American planes sank 5 small vessels and destroyed 158 planes. Wisconsin's task force stood out of Ulithi on the 14th of March bound for Japan. The mission of that group was to eliminate airborne resistance from the Japanese homeland to American forces off Okinawa. Enemy fleet units at Kure and Kobe on southern Honshu reeled under the impact of the explosive blows delivered by TF-58's airmen. On 18-19 March, from a point 100 miles southwest of Kyushu, TF-58 hit enemy airfields on that island. Unfortunately, Allied anti-aircraft fire on the 19th of March failed to stop an attack on the carrier Franklin. That afternoon, Wisconsin and the task force retired from Kyushu, screening the blazing and battered flat top, and shooting down 48 attackers. On the 24th of March, Wisconsin trained her 16-in guns on targets ashore on Okinawa. Together with the other battle wagons of the task force, she pounded Japanese positions and installations in preparation for the landings. Japanese resistance, while fierce, was doomed to failure by dwindling numbers of aircraft and trained pilots. While TF-58's planes were dealing with Yamato and her escorts, enemy aircraft attacked the American surface units. Combat air patrols shot down 15 enemy planes, and ships' gunfire shot down another 3, but not before one kamikaze attack penetrated the cabin screen to crash on the flight deck of the fleet carrier Hankow. On the 11th of April, the Japanese renewed the kamikaze attacks, and only drastic maneuvers and heavy barrages of gunfire saved the task force. Combat air patrols shot down 17 planes, and ships' gunfire shot down 12. The next day, 151 enemy aircraft attacked TF-58, but Wisconsin, together with other units of the screens for the vital carriers, kept the kamikaze pilots at bay and destroyed them before they could reach the targets. Over the days that ensued, Japanese kamikaze attacks managed to crash into 3 carriers, Intrepid, Bunker Hill and Enterprise, on successive days. By the 4th of June, a typhoon was swirling through the fleet. Wisconsin rode out the storm unscathed, but 3 cruisers, 2 carriers, and a destroyer suffered serious damage. Offensive operations were resumed on the 8th of June with a final aerial assault on Kyushu. Japanese aerial response was virtually non-existent. 29 planes were located and destroyed. On that day, one of Wisconsin's float planes landed and rescued a downed pilot from the carrier Shangri-La. Bombardment of Japan. Wisconsin ultimately put into Leyte Gulf and dropped anchor there on the 13th of June for repairs and replenishment. 3 weeks later, on the 1st of July, the battleship and her escorts sailed once more for Japanese home waters for carrier airstrikes on the enemy's heartland. 9 days later, carrier planes from TF TF-38 destroyed 72 enemy aircraft on the ground and smashed industrial sites in the Tokyo area. Wisconsin and the other ships made no attempt whatsoever to conceal the location of their armada, due in large part to a weak Japanese response to the presence. On the 16th of July, Wisconsin fired her 16-in guns at the steel mills and oil refineries at Muro in Hokkaido. 2 days later, she wrecked industrial facilities in the Hitachi-Miro area on the coast of Honshu, northeast of Tokyo itself. During that bombardment, British battleships of the British Pacific Fleet contributed the heavy shellfire. By that point in the war, Allied warships such as Wisconsin were able to shell the Japanese homeland almost at will. TF-38's planes subsequently blasted the Japanese naval base at Yokosuka and put the former fleet flagship Nagato out of action, one of the 2 remaining Japanese battleships. Throughout July and into August, Admiral Halsey's airmen visited destruction upon the Japanese, the last instance being against Tokyo on the 13th of August. 2 days later, the Japanese surrendered, ending World War II. Wisconsin, as part of the occupying force, arrived at Tokyo Bay on the 5th of September, 3 days after the formal surrender occurred on board the battleship Missouri. During Wisconsin's brief career in World War II, she had steamed 105,831 miles since commissioning, had shot down 3 enemy planes, had claimed assists on 4 occasions, and had fueled her screening destroyers on some 250 occasions. Post-World War II, shifting subsequently to Okinawa, the battleship embarked homeward-bound GIs on the 22nd of September 1945, as part of Operation Magic Carpet, staged to bring soldiers, sailors, and Marines home from the far-flung battlefronts of the Pacific. Departing Okinawa on the 23rd of September, Wisconsin reached Pearl Harbor on the 4th of October, remaining there for 5 days before she pushed on for the West Coast on the last leg of her stateside-bound voyage. She reached San Francisco on the 15th of October, heading for the east coast of the United States soon after the start of the new year, 1946. Wisconsin transited the Panama Canal from 11 to 13 January and reached Hampton Roads, Virginia on the 18th of January. Following a cruise south to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, the battleship entered the Norfolk Naval Shipyard for overhaul. After repairs and alterations that consumed the summer months, Wisconsin sailed for South American waters. Over the weeks that ensued, the battleship visited Valparaiso, Chile, from 1 to 6 November, Callao, Peru, from 9 to 13 November, Balboa, Canal Zone, from 16 to 20 November, and La Guaira, Venezuela, from 22 to 26 November, before returning to Norfolk on the 2nd of December 1946. Wisconsin spent nearly all of 1947 as a training ship, taking naval reservists on 2-week cruises throughout the year. Those voyages commenced at Bayonne, New Jersey, and saw visits conducted at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and the Panama Canal Zone. While underway at sea, the ship would perform various drills and exercises before the cruise would end where it had started, at Bayonne. During June and July 1947, Wisconsin took United States Naval Academy midshipmen on cruises to northern European waters. In January 1948, Wisconsin reported to the Atlantic Reserve Fleet at Norfolk for inactivation. Placed out of commission in reserve on the 1st of July, Wisconsin was assigned to the Norfolk Group of the Atlantic Reserve Fleet.